And welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Kevin. Boy, I got to tell you, we've got a great day ahead of us today. We're going to start with a gentleman by the name of Kurt Busch, and he's got a coaching program. It's called Brimstone Coaching Group. Go to his website, which is, of course, Brimstone Coaching Group. I can't speak English today. And go there, and it's just Brimstone Coaching Group.com. And we are going to have a great show. I got to tell you this about what he does. Live fully, lead authentically, discover the freedom of becoming who you were created to be. I think he sounds like he needs to be on Positive Talk Radio, so he is, and we'll be right back with him. Stay with us, everybody. There's a moment in every life when you decide to rise.
To stand taller than your fear.
To speak louder than your doubt.
To chase the vision that sets your soul on fire.
This is that moment. And here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire,
and truths that set you free.
This is Positive Talk Radio with Kevin
and with Rochelle,
where hope has a voice.
And that voice is yours.
And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm really hopeful that Rochelle is going to be able to be here, and she's got circumstances she's dealing with. But that being said, we have an extraordinary show for you today. Kurt Busch is with us. He is, and I said this to him before we began. I said, you're one of those. And he was like, what exactly does that mean? It's like, yeah, and the fact that he gets it. I got to tell you this, Kurt. When I started this in 2003, it was hard to find people that were of a positive mindset because a lot of people didn't even believe it was possible. And to have you on the show now, some 20 years later, I'm so proud to announce that it's becoming a thing, being positive, living a great life, understanding that you can lead a great life is a novel concept for some still, but more and more people get it. And you're one of those who gets it. Welcome to the show, Kurt.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Good to be here.
I'm excited about having you here because you are, and we're going to talk about your podcast. We're going to talk about your authorship. We're going to talk about your speakership and also your coaching. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm a busy guy. It sounds busier when you say it like that, Kevin.
Well, I got to ask you, how did all this begin for you? I know how my story began. How did yours begin?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I led in various scenarios and situations for about a decade and a half. I worked in manufacturing for a while. I led a church for a while. I pastored a church for a while. And in the middle of all of that, I got involved in some self-awareness practices and a self-awareness journey with a good friend of mine. His name's Chris Godfredson. He is now my business partner. But we began this journey of self-awareness and understanding that we have agency in how we show up. We began this together. And over the course of time, we just realized that we love doing this work with others and helping others become more self-aware, helping others become more aware of what authenticity means for them and how they can begin to show up in the places they live and lead in ways that are most aligned with who they want to be. I led a church group of volunteers for nearly a decade, and I through a pandemic, through some organizational tension, I realized that I loved helping those people who just maybe didn't know how to navigate things like anxiety or things like tension that they're feeling in a room. And I just love it. So we launched a coaching practice because why not? We're friends. We love the work. Let's launch a coaching practice together. And we did so in 2024.
Congratulations on that. Well, I'd love to go back to the mists of time and the conversation that the two of you had. I don't know I love what we're doing. Maybe we should do something with it. How did that conversation between the two of you go?
Yeah, it's a funny one. So Chris and I, we say we coached together, but separately for about 5 or 6 years before we officially launched. Meaning I would help him with some stuff he was leading. He would help me with some stuff that I was leading. And I called him one day and I said, Chris, I think it's time. I think I'm going to step away from the church I was leading and do this full time. And I said, I want you to come with me. I want you to do this with me. And he said, no. No, I'm not going to do that. And I said, okay, thanks for your honesty. And then shortly thereafter, he called back and said, you know what? Let's do it together. So he's pastoring a church now full time still. So this is not his full time gig at the moment. But we launched it and it's been great. I mean, it's one of the hardest things we've ever done together. And it's one of the most life-giving things I've ever done.
I got to tell you, it really is cool when you can do something with a brother that you truly love, and you guys could work it together. I was introduced to a gentleman way back when who said we need to do a television show to talk about everything that we're learning, and so we couldn't do TV, but we could do radio, and so we started doing the radio show and. He hated it. And I loved it. And he said to me one day, you could do this all by yourself. And I said, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is to build a community where we can all work together and understand what we're trying to get across and to understand that you can live authentically and you can really live a better life. And he was like, I don't know. I'm not. He was from Boston. So when you're from Boston, you have a whole different mindset and stuff.
Did you go Irish there for a little bit, Kevin?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I have a problem with accents sometimes. But in any event, I'm so glad that you're here. And we're going to talk about where did you come up with the name Brimstone?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Because in certain circles, that means something that we don't intend it to mean. The whole kind of hellfire and brimstone, that is not what we intended to mean. So butterflies, as you know, are the only living creature that literally transforms in its lifespan. And we believe that transformation from an old way of being, an old default way of being, into a new, more authentic way of being is possible for each of us. So we wanted to capture that in our name and our logos. The brimstone butterfly is native to the continent of Africa, and it's the longest living of all butterflies. So brimstone, we really wanted to capture the idea that we can be transformed creatures, transform people, and live long, full, authentic lives.
So this isn't, what is it? Sodom and Gomorrah. This isn't that story.
Boy, thanks for clarifying, Kevin. I can't hate for people to get that wrong. That's a very different posture. that really is. But the brimstone butterfly, I hadn't heard that term before, but that is what, and let me ask you, Kurt, isn't that why we're here? To discover what we can be, who we really authentically are, and how we can contribute to mankind and womankind to make everything better. I think so. Our belief is that many of us in our first formation learn a way of being that is not authentically aligned with who we are designed or created to be. So that really is our hope. That we can help people understand what that looks like and live a transformed life for the rest of their life.
Well, and the stories that we tell ourselves because of the stories other people have told us from the time that we're very little, we tend to buy into some of those stories but the people that are telling us those stories haven't gone through the transition yet of who they could be. And so those stories have, at one point, they should have no relevance in your life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I agree. I agree with you on the level that they should have no relevance, and they do. In the work that we do with people, we equate those stories that people tell about us that we might start to believe. We equate those with what we would call little t trauma. Little t trauma meaning that they cause something in us that either hurts or something that is not desirable, a feeling or experience that's not desirable. So then our nervous systems get into action to say we're never Never going to let that happen again. So while the story shouldn't have that relevance, we believe that it creates something in us that sort of perpetuates it into truth or perceived truth, if we don't, replace that story with something else.
And that's many of us spend a great deal of time replacing those stories with stories that actually resonate with us in a positive way.
Yeah, 100%, Kevin. I agree wholeheartedly.
And by the way, I've got to tell you, and normally Brichelle is here. She's having difficulties today, and I won't go into it. But Samuel is saying hello. Hey, greetings, brother Kevin, host of Positive Talk Radio Show, and our guest Kurt Busch. Receive our warmest greetings from Kibera Restoring Hope Center, based in Kibera slums in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for your inspiring and favorite program that continues to spread positive. I wish I could read. That'd be helpful. That's why Brichelle does this. Together we are strong and we are one. We also sincerely appreciate the team for highlighting our weekly feeding program. No child goes to bed hungry. Your support is touching lives across the world. And he has right now, Kurt, there are 15 to 20 people in a room in Kenya, and they're watching this via the Facebook. And so it's really cool that we have that kind of a reach. And you're one of those that's developing that reach with everything that you're doing. Now, did you started a Brimstone Coaching Group first, and when did you decide, hey, we could do a television show? Well, maybe we could do a podcast. When did you start that?
Yeah, the podcast started pretty early, and it started as a way for people to get to know Chris and I as Brimstone Coaching Group. It started as a way for us to say, hey, our coaching philosophy is pretty deep, pretty extensive, and maybe even I'm going to use the word scary a little bit to some people that might feel stuck in the way they live and lead. And we feel like the podcast is a way for people to see that we're just regular humans. So we started it really early for that purpose. I'm not sure what regular humans means, Kevin, if I'm honest. But here we are, and people can get a glimpse of that to see that we're not as maybe scary as our website can look when people feel stuck.
Well, and I want to say this because I've been, like I said, I started in 2003. And in those days, the coach was considered, you went on a weekend retreat, and then you got this little plaque that said, okay, you're now a coach. Yeah. That didn't mean that they were a coach. It just meant they had the little thing. And it's important to recognize that over the last 20 years, it has evolved into an important aspect of people's lives because many times you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know and you don't know where to find it and you don't have anybody, and by the way, friends and family are not a good indication of what you should be doing. You need somebody who can actually talk to you where you are and can dig out of you the things that you don't necessarily even want to talk about, but they are so impactful to you. Is that kind of the philosophy and the fun that you guys have?
Kevin, that's 100% right. I mean, I love the way you say we don't know what we don't know. That's exactly the language we would use with our clients. I think the other thing, there's two things I think are important about a coach. And I'm biased, Kevin, so I'm sure my biases are going to come out here. But I think having someone outside of our systems to ask the right questions at the right time is really helpful. For the exact same reason you say family and friends aren't that person or aren't capable. So many leaders we work with, we get to ask questions of them because we don't know anything about their system. Certainly we are on their side, but we don't have any interest, interest is the wrong. We have interest, but we don't have any stake in their system, right? We don't have any stake in how their system flows. We just want the health of everybody involved. So I think that's one. I think the other thing that's true is that our coaching philosophy says that the answer to wherever you feel stuck is already within you. You already hold all the answers, but there's something keeping you from seeing it. Our job as coaches, we believe, is not to direct you, not to tell you what to do, but to ask the right question at the right time to remove the thing that's keeping you from finding the answers. Um, which I think is incredibly profound for us because it keeps us from, feeling like we are the keeper of all things. We're experts on some things, but in general, we think most people are the experts in their own lives, and we have the responsibility to help them uncover what's already there.
I really think deep down, everybody has an idea of who they'd like to be or how they would like to present themselves. But a lot of times it gets buried because life is busy. Everybody gets doing a bunch of stuff. And you need somebody who is going to really listen to what you're saying and then ask the appropriate questions. Now, this is what I heard you say. I've had this conversation with a coach. She said, now, this is what I heard you say. Is that what you meant? And it's like, no. Now that you mention it, so listening is a big deal. By the way, we're talking with Kurt Busch. He is from Brimstone Coaching Group.com, and go there. You can look at he's got a book out that we're going to talk about, and also the podcast, and also the coaching practice. But one of the things a great coach will always do is they are a great listener. We'll be right back after this. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. You know, the world doesn't need more noise. Everyone knows we have enough of that. What we need is more listening, because listening creates understanding. Listening builds bridges, and listening reminds people that they matter. Real progress happens when we slow down long enough to hear one another, not to fix, not to judge, just to understand someone else's point of view. When conversations are rooted in respect and humanity, they have the power to heal, inspire, and move people forward. That's our mission. That's why we're here. I hope you'll join us. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin. Brichelle is, I think, off today. And Kurt Busch is with us, and he is from brimstonecoachinggroup.com. Go there, find out all about him. Listening when you're a coach is a big deal, isn't it?
It sure is. I actually think that's my primary role, Kevin. I think asking a good question feels pretty important, but listening to understand, I mean, that clip you just played feels like it answered the question for me. Listening to understand feels like my number one job.
And you're good at it too. And by the way, you've got that look about you that draws people in and that they feel comfortable talking with you, rather than being the therapist role where they're sitting there with a pad and paper and they're doodling and they're looking down, and a lot of times they don't even respond well to what you're saying because they don't seem to be necessarily vested in what you're saying, because they've already got a preconceived notion of how they're going to direct you to do. But listening is a big part of it, because you got to find out where people are at.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you nailed it. I think listening to understand and assuming that I don't have the answers is a big part of it. That changes the way that I can listen. If I think I have the answers, Kevin, then why would I need to listen? Right? If I'm just waiting for an opportunity to give a direction, why on earth would I ever listen? I think what's been true is I can look back at my own life and my own growth and my own journey and say, people listen to me. Like the people that were most impactful in my life, they were great listeners. And I felt heard and I felt seen and I felt like they were understanding and not just directing. So, yeah, I think you hit it on the head, Kevin.
one of the coolest things is your background. And we all have our experiences in life. And our experiences teach us things, both the good ones and the not so good ones. And one of the things that because you were a minister for a period of time and you worked with a men's, was it a men's group?
No specific men's group. I led a local church, led a couple different local churches over about a decade.
And what happened with that is that you learned how to listen. You learned from the different folks and the different points of view. And I got to tell you, being the minister of a church, it's like herding cats sometimes, isn't it?
That's a great analogy. I feel a little stumped, Kevin. I feel like somewhere in me I shouldn't say yes to that, but yes, I think on some level, here's what I've learned. Like, here's what I'm going to say to that. Leading volunteers is such a different thing than leading employees.
Oh yeah.
And it's not got anything to do with accountability or pay or discipline, and it has to do with church volunteers or volunteer leaders in a local church are already doing like a full-time job during the day, and then I get them in the evening after they've worked 10 hours, had a quick supper with their kids, and then they come into a meeting, right, and are trying to just figure out how to be because they're tired. So leading a group like that is just so different, and it brings so many different challenges with it that it can feel a little bit like herding cats, for sure.
Well, because everybody, and even in a church setting or a school setting, or everybody is where they are, and they come from different backgrounds, they have different experiences, and to try and work to pull them together for the common good. The same thing works when you're a leader of employees. I think great leaders are the ones who are able to look at all the people that they've got working with them and find a common purpose and reality to pull them all together so that they can achieve greatness together within the purpose of whatever the company is. Does that make sense?
100%. And I think that's the gift of leading in a nonprofit, or even not a church. And it doesn't even have to be a church, but a nonprofit organization. That I think that's the gift, is the kind of common starting point is a shared direction or a shared set of values, at least on some level. I live in the Midwest, and we have a thing called Midwest Nice, where if you ask somebody to do something, you almost always just say yes, because it's hard to say no to people.
Right.
And that's true sometimes. Sometimes there are volunteers who are probably leading from a place of obligation, or whatever that is. But underneath that is almost always a deep desire for the success and the growth of whatever organization they're volunteering in. And I think that's the gift of leading in that setting, is because it opens up so many more opportunities to be able to invest into those people.
Absolutely. And investing, and you just said a real big key, and I want everybody to listen to this: investing in people. That is, I think that's the biggest aspect of anything that we do in life.
Yeah. There's one thing that doesn't go away. It's people, right? A lot of
Hopefully.
things change in life. Well, that's true. Uh, a lot of things change. Life's dynamic, and what's true is that people are kind of the constant. And people is where fruit grows. And I think, yeah, I agree with you, Kevin, 100%.
Well, and it's great for you guys to be doing the coaching practice and doing the podcast, and you've written a book. Tell me about the book.
Yep. So Chris and I, we consider ourselves writers, which I don't know. I'm not sure. There's probably writers out there that are like, wow, you should not be called a writer. But we enjoy writing. I should say it like that. We enjoy writing. I think, if I'm most honest, when I stepped away from full-time ministry, my writing time went way down, and I realized that I missed writing. I wasn't writing 30 minutes of a sermon every week, and I realized I missed it. So Chris and I got together, and we thought, how do we do two things? How do we get some more writing together? How do we get to do that work together again, like you said earlier, as friends, to do a project together? But then I think the main goal is, like, how do we convey to people why and how we do the work that we do. We've developed some tools over the years that we would call our own, some practices we would call our own. But in general, we just want to convey like our heart for this work, and our heart for the effort that we put into helping people be more authentic and live more fully.
Well, and Kurt, I got to ask you this because when I was young, I went to a Lutheran church. As a matter of fact, I had the record for the number. In order to get a month's perfect attendance, you had to be there every Sunday for that month, and you got 1 month perfect attendance. I had 10 years and 4 months of perfect attendance growing up in the Lutheran church, and I went to a Lutheran school and stuff. And I never understood how creative. I figured there had to be a book someplace where ministers would pull sermons from, because how do you come up with something new and exciting and different every week that's going to be engaging rather than them say, oh yeah, here he goes again?
Well, that's a good question, Kevin. I think the short answer is I didn't. I was on a staff. I was on a multi-site staff, and there was sort of a creative team that was responsible for kind of mapping out what a year's worth of sermons and sermon series and all that would look like. So I would sort of receive the plan and then create within the plan. My long-term vision and creativity and long-term, Kevin, is like in the negative in terms of like how good I am at it.
Oh, stop.
So the idea of like putting a year's worth of that stuff together makes me, number one, want to crawl into a corner and never like come out of that corner. But it also just feels really draining. So I think the short answer is you're probably asking the wrong person, Kevin.
Well, and I've never told this story before, so I need to tell this because when I was going to church in one of those Sundays that I was there for like 10 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
I was in the pew, and I looked to my right, and the pastor who was going to be speaking that day was sitting there in street clothes. And his garments were on the podium where he was going to speak. And so I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13. And I looked at him and I said, what the hell is he doing over there? And who's going to run this thing and stuff? And so it came time for the sermon, and he just sat there.
Oh, wow.
And so everybody started looking at him going, aren't you supposed to be, like up there? Aren't you going to speak now? And so finally, after about 5 minutes, and when nobody's saying anything, 5 minutes can feel like an hour.
An hour, at least.
And so and then he got up and walked up to the front and he said, now, suppose I wasn't here. Which one of you was going to get up and do a sermon and to lead the service for everyone else? And everybody else is like, well, I don't know. Maybe he'll do it, but I'm not, So what that taught me is that it isn't somebody else's responsibility. It's all of our responsibilities to uplift each other and to take care of each other. And that was one of the earliest lessons that I had in regards to that I've carried with me my whole life.
Yeah, I love that. I was actually going to ask you, Kevin, when in that process did you think, oh no, did I miss something? Am I supposed to be doing this today?
No, I was just a kid at the time. So it was like nobody at our church, it was a bunch of older folks and then a few kids. And so nobody listened to the kid anyway, but none of the older folks wanted to get up and take responsibility for it either.
Yeah, that's fair. I love that story.
And it's so important that we all decide that we are going to, and it's a decision, isn't it, Kurt, that we're going to live our lives to our best degree, and we're going to be, by the way, smiles are free, everybody, and it doesn't cost a thing. And to lead your life in a positive way so that you can discover who you really are and what your gifts are and how you can contribute your special gifts to the world. I think that's an important distinction that a lot of people miss.
I agree. And I'm glad you said it like that. I mean, I am grateful for voices like you that say that out loud, that this is a choice, because I sometimes wonder if we just don't remember that it's a choice, or if we don't even know. I can think of times in my life where it felt normative to be exhausted. It felt normative to be overwhelmed and to be sort of shrouded in this sort of like fake it till you make it sort of haze.
Yep.
So I'm really grateful for voices like yours that say this is a choice and there is a different way.
You have the opportunity, and I believe the obligation to yourself to go in search of how you can be of greater service to yourself, to your family, and to everyone around you, because it has a ripple effect. You mentioned the butterfly, which is the name Brimstone Coaching Group.com. Brimstone is a butterfly, and a butterfly transforms so much and becomes this worm and turns into this beautiful flying creature I believe that we are all capable of that. We just don't know that we're capable of it until we go talk to someone like Kurt, who can then help us help ourselves. And by the way, I know you know this, but somebody may not. You can't fix anybody, can you?
I cannot fix anybody. That is 100% true. Nor can anybody fix me. I think that's the more poignant piece, because I sometimes even now wish somebody else could fix me. Like, I wish maybe I didn't have to do the work on myself. Maybe somebody else could do it for me. That'd be way easier.
Well, we haven't talked about this. Maybe you're married and your wife says, maybe I'll fix you. But primarily it is up to each individual. And I believe that's one of the paramount reasons that we're here, is to live our best life and to contribute positively to a society, the world at large, but more importantly, our family and friends.
Yeah, Kevin, you made the point that that we can only fix ourselves. I would say it like this: that so many of us, myself included, like when I say many of us, I mean myself too, like find it really easy to want to like fix things outside of us. Like, if I could just get somebody to think differently, if I could just change somebody's opinion, if I could just whatever, then my life would be better or more positive or more fulfilling. And I'm just not sure it's possible to fix those things. So the question becomes then, if I can't fix those things, if I can't change what people around me believe and what their opinions are, how do I change how I experience them? And how do I change how I show up with them?
And that's a really big deal. And I want to talk about that when we come back. Kurt Busch is our guest. Go to his website, which is brimstonecoachinggroup.com. We need to take our halftime break, and we'll be right back, because that is what you just said is a really big deal for all of us. And we'll be right back right after this. Stay with us, everybody. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio Network. We're on a mission to entertain, enlighten, empower, and educate through inspiring music, dynamic conversations, and yes, laughter. Join me, Kevin McDonald, and Brichelle as we declare our freedom from hate, division, and fear, and celebrate a better way of living. Go to positivetalkradio.net to find out more. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk. Kurt Busch is with us. Brachelle's out sick today, and I want to thank Kurt for putting up with me and all my silliness. But what did you think of that piece?
I mean, I love it. I love anytime somebody talks about like kindness and boundaries together. Of like, it doesn't mean we're getting taken advantage of. Kindness doesn't mean we ignore our own needs. I love it so much. I think there's a myth that says kindness means that we just kind of give of self until there's nothing left to give. I think we can hold self and be kind at the same time. I love it.
Kurt, how many people come to you and either they say it to you or you have a thought in your mind, this is a real people pleaser, and they're not doing it because they necessarily want to or feel called to. They're doing it because that's the expectation that they've created for themselves. And I'm a real people pleaser. And so people tend to, let's call Kevin. He's a real people pleaser. He's not going to say no. He'll do it, kind of thing. And do you get a lot of people like that?
Yeah. I would say 50% of our clients have some sort of people pleasing, and I think it's probably less about the people pleasing, or they feel stuck less because of the people pleasing and more because of the giving of self. Right. The giving of self beyond what they would normally choose, which, as you know, turns into resentment really quickly. Resentment towards the people that we would normally love and care about. People pleasing. I mean, especially in the Midwest here with the people that we work with, people pleasing is a strong trait in a lot of people.
Well, and a lot of people believe that, and because it's generational. That's what they think is expected of them because that's what their parents did or whatever it is. But that isn't appropriate for you because you do need to have boundaries of things that you can do and things that, as an example, if somebody says, can you loan me $500 and you need that money for your kids or for food and stuff, it's then not appropriate for you to give them what you can't afford or can't. But a lot of people do it anyway.
Yeah. We think about boundaries like this. I love that you said boundaries. I love talking about boundaries because it's taken a shift in my life, like an empowering shift. I think for a long time, I thought about boundaries as like a brick wall, like a castle wall, where I come up to a request or I come up to a moment where I have to make a decision. And I have like a flow chart. If yes, then do this. If no, then do this. And the brick wall either stays in place or it gets broken down. I think about boundaries now as a drawbridge, less of a brick wall, more of a drawbridge. I think of a boundary as a moment where I get to make a principled decision. That doesn't mean I'm cold or callous. It doesn't mean I'm getting walked on. It means I get to make a decision based on who and how I want to be. And I get to decide if I want to lower that drawbridge or keep it up. And that's been a huge shift for me.
Can you do it with kindness and love and still create boundaries?
1,000,000%, Kevin. I had a mentor say once, I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but there's a difference between feeling hurt and harming someone. So if someone asks me for $500 and I say no, they might feel hurt by that. But if I do so in a way that's kind and caring, there's a difference in my posture than if I was to say, "No way, you lazy bum," like, "Why don't you get a job, you loser?" That's a different posture. So I do think that there is a myth that says if I draw a boundary and somebody's unhappy with that, or somebody even feels bad about that somehow reflects on me. But I think if I'm doing so with kindness and with a caring posture, then I think that's all I'm in control of, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I tell my team and other people is it's none of my business what you think of me.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah.
Because you're not in control of any of that. And nor should you be in control of somebody else's ideas and thoughts. And by the way, when we're talking about people not getting along, Thanksgiving in this day and age is a very tough day for everybody to get together.
So, my anxiety just went through the roof, Kevin. I'm gonna need to take a break.
Because it is really tough when you have diametrically opposed views that are fundamental to your existence, and yet and they're related to you, for heaven's sakes, and yet you still need to kind of bury it and understand and just let it be. That's hard to do.
It's so hard to do. I think that's the example of like, if I could just change this person, my life would be so much better. If I could just change what Aunt Edna thinks at the Thanksgiving table. Sorry if you have an Aunt Edna, but if I could just change the way she shows up, my life would be so much better. I mean, two things are true. You can't, and that is not going to do what we think it does. We have a saying: everywhere we go, there we are. So whether Aunt Edna is at the table or not, everywhere I go, there I am. And it's my responsibility to figure out how I show up and why I'm showing up that way, not Aunt Edna's, to make sure that I'm showing up okay.
And if you can do it with kindness and love, and in many cases you just decide not to go down that rabbit hole, because there is no winning going down that rabbit hole, because you're never going to convince anybody to change their mind about anything. At least that's been my experience. How about yours?
It's never been my experience. There have been times where I wanted to, in leadership, like I just want to change somebody's mind. I think the question always becomes, Kevin, like, why do I want to change somebody's mind? Why would I want to do that? And the answer is always because it makes me feel comfortable, or it makes me not have to, question what I think, or it makes me feel more at ease to have somebody who's, quote, on my side. So I think that's always the question I ask is like, number one, it doesn't work, so it's not going to do what I think it's going to do. But then, like, why is it so important for me? Or why do I think I need that? And it usually circles back to something inside of me not aligned with who and how I want to be.
And how you want to be is really everything, isn't it?
It is. Kevin, I'm an optimist. I'm a mix of a cynic and an optimist, and I don't know what to do with those things.
How the hell does that work?
We're going to need another episode to talk about that. I think in general, like, there are outliers on both ends of the extreme spectrum, but I think in general, most adults don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm really going to suck today. I think most of us, do you know the name Brene Brown?
I've heard the name, yes.
Yeah, Brene Brown talks about guilt and shame a lot. She's kind of a forefront psychologist on emotional maturity. And she'll say that people aren't pissing me off just on purpose. They're doing the best they can. Or people aren't sucking on purpose to piss me off. They're doing the best they can with what they've got. And I think that's true. So I think most adults want to show up in a way that's regulated and kind and caring and like working for mutual good. I think underneath the anxiety and the kind of first formation stuff, I think underneath that, we do want to show up at the Thanksgiving table or any of those places. We do want to show up calm and regulated and kind. Then the cynic kicks in and says, that's probably not true, but I want to believe most of again, kind of narcissist extremes, leaving those out. I think most of us kind of fall in that middle of like, yeah, we want to, we just don't know how.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing.
1,000,000%. Yes.
Is to give people tools. And we need to take a quick break, and I want to play something about leadership because I think it's relevant here. But when we come back, let's talk about the tools that Brimstone Coaching Group can provide you, and so that you can learn to help yourself. That would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
That'd be great.
So we will be right back right after this. Stay with us. You're listening to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin. Brachelle's out sick today, and we will be right back in just 1 minute. Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. Some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin, and Kurt Busch is with us, and he has a coaching program. He's also an author. He's even though he doesn't necessarily want to believe that, and he's also a podcaster, and he's a speaker. And go to his website, which is Brimstone Coaching Group.com, and learn all about him. And he's got tools. You and your partner have developed tools over time to help people. Describe some of those tools and how they can be applied.
Yeah, so one of them is a framework that we call our promises framework. And yes, we've both been pastors, so we alliterate everything. We can't not, right? There has to be three, and we have to alliterate. So we think about promises. We think about protective promises that we make at an early age to keep ourselves safe. We think about purposeful promises, ones that replace the protective ones that might not serve us well. And then we think about preferred promises as how we want to go forward with our lives. Like, how do we define who and how we want to be? Those are the promises we make to ourselves and to others. So that's one framework. The other tool that we are just really proud of is the thing we call our transformational equation. Kevin, transformation is long. It's a long, hard process. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I'm decades into this work for myself, and I learn something new every day. But if I can give you the closest thing to a secret sauce to transformation that I can, it would be reflection. So our transformational equation is E plus R equals T. E is encounter. We think an encounter is anything that happens in our day that throws us off course or surprises us or shocks us or causes us to react in ways that we don't understand or maybe don't even prefer. Maybe I lash out in traffic. Maybe I withdraw in a meeting when I'd rather use my voice. Those are encounters. And when we have one of those encounters, which I think there's dozens of them a day, when we have one, we have the chance to reflect on it and ask questions like, what happened? Who was there? What emotions were stirring up? And what did I do? Like, what did I actually do? And would I do it differently if I got the chance to do it again? We think those two things, having the encounter, pausing to reflect on it, will always lead to transformation. Not overnight, but over the course of time. You said it earlier. We don't know what we don't know, but once we see it, once we see something, we just can't unsee it. And we think that reflection is doing that work of saying, here's what's so for me. And now, as a grown adult, I have the choice what I want to do with it. Do I want to change what's in front of me, or do I want to continue doing what I've always done? Do I want to transform into a more authentic, more full, more kind person, or do I want to just keep doing what I've always been doing?
And Kurt, I want to I want to introduce or bring into our conversation, and I am so pleased that she has been able to be here. And I wanted Brichelle. It is so great to see you. How are you today? Well, we won't go there, but say hello to Kurt.
Hello, Kurt. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you've had a ton of fun with Kevin. He makes sure of that. And I don't want to cut off the conversation, but I saved a question for you whenever you're ready.
Yeah, fire away, Brichelle. Good to see you.
Yes, I'm very curious. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I wanted your perspective when it comes to having discipline with yourself and keeping yourself on track with your goals, but also learning how there can be harmony in that before it leads to burnout or being just completely over it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that question. And maybe can I reflect back to make sure I'm
Sure.
hearing you correct?
Yeah.
Are you implying in that then too, like this is hard work to hold on to our goals? And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You want to keep
Yeah.
the discipline, right? And you want to make sure you're on track with yourself, but also take the time and the space and the pauses you need before you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do any of this and I'm going to shut down.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I think what I would say first is I think self compassion in any sort of self work is just key. I think self compassion is key for the main reason because we don't always get it right.
Right.
I know who and how I want to be, and there are some days where I just can't, or I don't, or
Right.
I'm a. Do you guys know the Enneagram numbers? Do you know these? Uh, you should check it. It's great. I'm a people pleaser. So there are days where I please people way more than I want to. And then at the end of the day, I can feel like, man, I screwed it up again, you know? I missed it again. So self-compassion, I think, is key. That's what I would say, number one. I also think about this, Rochelle, that those kind of old ways of being that we're setting goals against. Maybe I don't love that word against, but
Yeah.
goals that we're setting so that we show up a different way, those old ways of being, we've done for decades in some cases, and they just hang on so hard. So I think the stamina to keep those goals going is just so important to find places to recharge that stamina. Find something that gives life or gives joy. Maybe it's a book by yourself under a blanket with a warm cup of coffee, or a bike ride, or whatever it is. I think finding those places that give us life and give us joy will recharge the battery uh, to 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 fill the stamina we need to keep those goals in front of us.
I agree.
And
Very good.
Kurt, you said it again. You said another key word of ours, which is self-compassion. And this is just 34 seconds, but I would love to play, and I want your opinion of it on the other side. Rochelle, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me here. I have another question for when we come back because you're playing this.
Perfect. We'll be right. This is entitled self-compassion, oddly enough. Why is it, do you suppose, that we are our own harshest critics, maintaining a standard for ourselves that we would never demand of a friend? We mistake self-criticism for discipline, but real growth requires a different environment, one of self-compassion. When we quiet the internal judge, we find the clarity and the energy we need to actually improve. True strength begins with the peace you make with yourself. Are we on the right track there, Kurt?
We're speaking the same language, guys. I mean, I don't know how to say it any better. I love that.
So, Rochelle, the floor, my dear, is yours.
Thanks. I have never asked this question before, and I hope you understand. I think you will. Do you work with people of their realization when it comes to them working on detaching from the things that are unimportant and reattaching themselves to their new values?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. I have a client who just the other day, and this ties into self-compassion as well. I mean, I had a client just the other day who I would say is probably in his mid 50s, who came to this realization real time that he was attaching his self-worth and his value to his performance at work, which I think is so common, right? I mean, I think this is one of the most common things we do as humans. We attach our self-worth to those things. And he like had this moment on Zoom when we were together, where he went from like, I realized it, I can do something about it, I'm excited, immediately into shame, of like, what am I doing? His words to me were, "Is it possible I've been doing this for 40 years?" Yeah, it is. And like inside, I'm celebrating the whole time because he's realizing it. He's naming it. Like, I'm not telling him I'm celebrating, but like naming it is the first step
Yeah.
to, in your words, detaching from it and attaching to something else. So then the next natural question is like, okay, well, how do we want to define your self-worth? Like where do you want to find that value, and how do you want to be able to tangibly say like, this is where my value lies, and this is where my worth comes. So yes, short answer, we do that work all the time, and it usually begins with oh man, I've been like attaching myself to these things that I don't want to attach myself to anymore.
Yeah.
And as a coach, that's a huge celebration moment. That's like confetti poppers. Like, yes, let's keep going.
I love that.
Because there are people, and my dad included, and he's one of the reasons why I do what I do now, is that he was an executive for Nordstrom for 30 years. He was Mr. McDonald. Every time he went into a department, everybody was dusting everything and making sure the displays were right, and that everybody was dressed properly and all that kind of good stuff. Well, he retired at 60, and Mr. McDonald became Jack. And Jack had no idea who he was. And in those days, there wasn't anyone he could go talk to that could help him. And so Jack spent the rest of his life, playing golf, and then he couldn't do that anymore. And then he sat on the couch. Don't sit on the couch. It's a waste of life. And so then that's why talking to someone like Kurt can really be helpful to you so that you can pivot. There's that word again, Michelle, pivot. And pivot.
Are we talking about friends now?
Yes.
He knows. Oh my God.
I know. Of course I know.
Our operations manager is going to love you for that.
Well, and the thing is that when we all spend our lives, and we need to be able and willing to pivot, to do something different, to be somebody else that you truly want to be. But a lot of us don't know how to pivot.
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions we get asked a lot is like, when someone starts to do this work with us and they start to, we call them breakthroughs. Breakthrough is just like an aha moment, right? One of the questions people ask is like, why don't more people do this? And I think the reality is people, like, we don't know how, right? It's not because people don't want a breakthrough. It's not because people don't want to live differently. I think we just don't know how. And it's just hard. So I appreciate voices like both of you that are saying, hey, no, this is possible. Here's resources and ways to do that. Love it.
That's
Indeed. And that's why you're here, Kurt Busch, because you are a resource. And Brishelle, do you have his website pulled up?
I happen to. Everybody, please go to his website and contact him just because you can at brimstonecoachinggroup.com. Thank you for making this available and to just schedule a call with you guys. And how does that work when somebody does that?
Yep. So we know that like our coaching philosophy is one of a million coaching philosophies. So we like to take a minute and just have a free call with someone. Everybody's first call is free, just to see if our coaching philosophy lines up with where someone feels stuck. If it does, awesome. Then we'd love to engage in a coaching relationship. If not, awesome. We would love to help you find a coach and a philosophy that does fit. So that first inquiry call that's completely free all the time is a great first step.
Awesome.
And Brishelle, I got to ask you, do you know what Brimstone stands for?
I've heard it before, but Kurt, I'm guessing you could tell me.
I can't. You know what? I can actually tell you.
But and it's not Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you know what Sodom and Gomorrah means?
No, but I like the way that sounds.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. Sodom and Gomorrah were in the Old Testament. They were two cities that were rife with problems, and they ended
Never
up
mind,
being.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Brimstone from the sky came. No, brimstone in this case. I didn't even know this. It's a butterfly. See, she loves animals. It's an African butterfly.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my,
We want to capture butterflies are the only living being or creature that transforms, and we want to help people transform. Brimstone is the longest living butterfly.
That's amazing. And someday I will catch one and I'll send you a picture.
I would love that. I would love that.
And Samuel came to visit, so
Yes,
you can
saw.
go to
Hi, Samuel, if you're still here.
you can go to Kenya and catch a brimstone butterfly.
Yeah.
Well, don't you dare tell me twice. You know where I'll be next month.
Work trip.
Thank
Exactly.
you for making Brimstone possible, though, Kurt. It is transformational for people to have that option.
And Brichelle, you do this so well. If you'd like to end the show, take us out, my dear.
Well, thank you so much for having me a little late with you guys. I know you had plenty of fun, though, and got all of the information out that everybody needs. Kevin, thank you for allowing the space for Kurt to come and speak to people, to allow that option of the Brimstone Coaching Group. Everybody go to brimstonecoachinggroup.com and check out your own transformation for yourself. It might happen just right in front of you before you know it. Kurt, thank you for spending this time with us and making things like this available for people to have, to know that there is a better way of living, but it is also so very possible for them, even if they think it's not. Do you have any last thought on your mind you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just echo that. We spend a lot of time telling people that it is possible to live in a way that doesn't include exhaustion and overwhelm, that does align with who and how we want to be. It's possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. And I just want to say thank you for the work that you both do to give voice to that all the time. Thanks for inviting people into a different way of being.
Thank you.
And by the way, I love it when you didn't quite, you wanted to clarify Brichelle's question, so you asked it back to her, and I just in a very professional, coach-like manner, and I thought that was absolutely fabulous.
Thanks, Kevin.
Clarity is key. We've got the power, people. Remember.
And thank you, everybody, for paying attention. Keep in mind, we've got another great show coming up at 3 o'clock. Ken Stoddard is going to be with us. So stay with us, everybody. And Kurt Busch, thank you so much. Go to brimstonecoachinggroup.com, find out all about him, and get the help that you need to live your best life. Some of us don't even know how, including my dad. Thank you, everybody. Yes, you do. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.